History hides its darkest secrets in forgotten pages. Stories buried not because they were unimportant, but because they were too disturbing, too dangerous, or too embarrassing for those who survived them. Empires are not remembered only for their victories and monuments, but for their excesses, their secrets, and the people they tried hardest to erase. This is Fury history. And tonight, we enter one of the most scandalous legends ever recorded, a story whispered for 2,000 years, a story about power, desire, fear, and a woman Rome never forgave. Rome, 48 AD. The city sleeps under a heavy summer night. The Imperial Palace, guarded by soldiers and shadowed by marble columns, is silent. Emperor Claudius lies asleep, surrounded by luxury and security, unaware that somewhere within the palace walls a hidden door opens. A woman steps into the darkness. She is careful, silent. She wears a cheap blonde wig pulled low over her brow, hiding her natural dark hair. Her clothing is rough and plain, the kind worn by women who survive on the streets. No gold, no rings, no scent of expensive oils, only worn fabric, sweat, and the smell of the city clinging to her skin. She moves quickly through Rome's narrow alleys, past flickering torches, drunkards slumped against walls, and figures who vanish into shadows. She does not hesitate. She knows this route well. Her destination is the Suburra, Rome's most dangerous district. This is not the Rome of temples and triumphs. This is where the city decays, where criminals hide, where disease spreads, where the poor live packed into crumbling buildings. Violence is normal here, so is desperation. And this is where Rome's cheapest brothels operate. She stops at one of them. The door creaks open. The madam looks up and freezes for a fraction of a second. She recognizes her immediately. Everyone does, but no one speaks her real name. Here she is known as Lysiska, the she-wolf. And this woman, disguised and anonymous in Rome's filthiest quarter, is Valeria Messalina, Empress of Rome, wife of the most powerful man in the world. To understand how this moment was even possible, we need to go back to the beginning. Messalina was born around 20 AD into one of the most prestigious families in Rome. Her bloodline traced directly back to Augustus, the first Roman emperor. This was not ordinary nobility. This was imperial royalty by Roman standards. From birth, she was surrounded by privilege. Wealth, servants, education, and political connections shaped her world. Ancient writers described her as striking even among Rome's elite. Pale skin, golden hair, sharp aristocratic features. She was raised knowing she was destined for power, though not in her own name. At around 17 years old, she was married to Claudius. The marriage was political, not emotional. Claudius was more than 30 years older than her and widely mocked by Rome's elite. He limped when he walked. He stuttered when he spoke. He drooled when nervous. His own family treated him as an embarrassment, someone to be hidden away from public life. No one believed he would ever rule. But he carried imperial blood, and so did Messalina. Their union strengthened the dynasty. Then in 41 AD, Rome descended into chaos. Emperor Caligula, notorious for his cruelty and insanity, was assassinated by his own Praetorian guards. Caligula had ruled through terror. He declared himself a god, humiliated senators, slept with his sisters, and executed people for entertainment. His death left a vacuum. Rome stood on the edge of civil war. The Senate wanted power back. The military needed stability. The Praetorian Guard needed an emperor immediately. They searched the palace and found Claudius hiding behind a curtain, trembling, convinced he would be next. Instead, they dragged him out and declared him emperor. It was almost absurd. A man mocked his entire life was suddenly ruler of the Roman Empire. And overnight, Messalina became empress. She was barely 21 years old. Suddenly, she possessed unimaginable wealth. Palaces, slaves, influence over appointments, favors, punishments. She gave birth to Britannicus, Claudius's son and heir. Her child was destined to rule. By every Roman standard, she had achieved the ultimate position for a woman: security, prestige, power. But ancient sources tell us that for Messalina, this was not enough. Roman historians wrote that she was restless, ambitious, and dangerously intelligent. They claimed she understood something most women of her time did not, that while she held no official authority, she could still control men who did, and the most effective tool she had was desire. According to Tacitus and Suetonius, Messalina pursued men relentlessly. Senators, generals, nobles, performers. Refusal was rarely an option. Those who resisted found themselves accused of crimes, stripped of rank, or eliminated entirely. Consent did not matter when the empress demanded obedience. One of her most infamous relationships involved an actor, a profession Romans considered barely respectable. When he tried to reject her, Messalina allegedly went to Claudius and demanded that the emperor command him to obey her wishes. Claudius, either unaware or unwilling to see the truth, agreed. The law itself forced the man to submit. This was power stripped of illusion, but the stories grew darker. According to the poet Juvenal, Messalina lived a secret life that shocked even Rome. He wrote that she waited for Claudius to fall asleep, then disguised herself and slipped into the Subura. There, under the name Lysiska, she worked in a brothel, calling out to passing men, selling herself through the night. Juvenal described her returning to the palace at dawn, exhausted but unsatisfied. These accounts sound unbelievable. Juvenal wrote satire. Exaggeration was his weapon. But similar stories appear elsewhere. The most infamous account comes from Pliny the Elder. According to him, Messalina challenged a famous prostitute to a contest. The question was simple: who could endure more, an empress or a professional? The rules were brutal: 24 hours, as many men as possible, witnessed by Roman nobles. The prostitute collapsed after 25. Messalina continued until there were no men left capable of continuing. Pliny recorded this as fact. Why would she do this? Historians argue endlessly. Some suggest compulsive behavior, others see political strategy. In Rome, women were denied formal power. They could not vote, rule, or command armies, but sexuality offered influence. It created fear, loyalty, leverage, and there is another possibility, that these stories were propaganda, written after her death by men with reasons to destroy her reputation. Roman history is filled with powerful women accused of sexual excess to justify their removal. Cleopatra, Agrippina, Messalina may have been no different. What we know for certain is how her story ended. In 48 AD, she fell in love with Gaius Silius, a young, ambitious consul. While Claudius was away, they married publicly. This was not scandal, this was treason. When Claudius learned the truth, the Praetorian Guard acted immediately. Messalina fled to the gardens of Lucullus. Roman law allowed no mercy. Her mother begged her to take her own life to preserve dignity. Messalina hesitated. She hoped. The soldiers arrived. There was no trial. She was stabbed to death in the gardens she once owned. She was around 28 years old. Her children did not survive long. Britannicus was poisoned. Octavia was executed. Messalina was erased from official memory. But legends do not die so easily. For 2,000 years, she has been remembered as a symbol of excess, corruption, and forbidden power. But modern historians now question everything. They see patterns of misogyny, political slander, fear of women who refused obedience. The real Messalina is lost. What survives is her legend. And that legend tells us less about her than it does about Rome, about power, about control, about how history punishes women who threaten it. Whether she was a monster or a victim, one thing is certain: Rome never truly buried her secrets. If this story revealed the hidden side of ancient history, subscribe to The Hidden Past. We explore the stories history tried to silence.